moment. Oops, wrong one. Okay, time now is 6 o'clock, and we are going to go ahead and get started with the Budget Committee meeting, August 12th, 2024, at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. Welcome to mayor's department heads, the rest of the council. I want to note the only council member missing is Councilman Brunner. All of their council members are in attendance. So tonight's Budget Committee meeting is strictly for the mayor to present the 2025 budget, have a conversation with him, department heads, allow some time for council members to ask questions as well. I will say this won't be our only budget committee meeting. We'll have at least one more, maybe two. We'll just see. But we do obviously have a timeline set by the state that we have to get a budget submitted. So I just want to remind all the council members this is a time to collaborate. I hope everyone had an opportunity to go through the budget that was presented. If you didn't have time to go through all of it, I know there's a lot to read. Don't worry, we're gonna have more than one meeting, like I said, to ask more questions. And really just we want to make sure that we understand the budget. It's the mayor's first term, so might be some changes from the previous budgets. And so there might be some questions that come off of that. So the way I'd like to have this evening go is we'll have the mayor start out and kind of discuss his vision, and basically give the floor to him to start presenting the budget, go over some things, and then really just to be able to give the council members an opportunity to ask questions. I know some council members might have questions for one department or a different department. And so really just to be able to have the department heads available to come up to the podium at any time and kind of do a round robin with the council members and give them an opportunity to ask. Starting out, we'll say maybe 2 questions, 3 questions, and then we can come back around. I would like to keep the meeting under 2 hours, just because I know we're going to have more meetings. We could be here all night if we wanted to, but we can separate this out and hopefully get this under 2 hours. So I would like this to kind of be at the 30,000 foot level. But again, council members can ask any questions they want. I just think this should be kind of a high level understanding of their vision, where they want to go with the budget, ask a few questions, and then in future council or budget committee meetings, maybe dig a little deeper if we'd like. So I am going to go ahead and turn the floor over to the mayor and allow him to present the budget.
All right, great. Good evening. I'm very excited about this to present my first mayor's budget to everyone. This is a great opportunity. We did a lot of work on this. Just to give you an overview of the process we went through and then how I was able to come to the conclusion of what you see in front of you now. I would say probably 2 or 3 months ago, my controller and chief of staff went and sat with all of the department heads to get their ideas and what they would like to see added and changed in our budget. So they went through this process, and then once that was done, they submitted something to me. And one of the commonalities amongst every department, every union, everything was we aren't getting paid enough. So what I decided to do based off of that information was make the choice to invest in people. From everything, whether they are police, fire, street, engineering, control, every department, no matter what they do, we can have all the best things, right? Best cars, best capital items, best everything. But if we don't have people here to be able to run those things and do the work of the city, then I feel like we are missing on what our mission should be. And um, kind of staying on the same theme of excellence that we started on January 1, I believe that the city of Marion should be a premier employer in this city. We should have, our buildings should be nice, our people should be taken care of, we should have the best insurance, we should have the competitive salaries. So what you'll see in some of the changes that we made in this budget are really focused around investing in the future of our people. For my first budget, I brought alongside Baker Tilly and Paige is here tonight from them. Um, and she'll be available for questions as well. She can answer some of um, the formula questions, how why the money is there, how it got there, where it's coming from, why do we have that money, all of those kind of questions about the funds, etc. She'll be able to answer those questions. But from a philosophy standpoint, one thing that was given to me as advice was on capital outlays or capital improvements, whether that's ranging from vehicles to building issues to anything that you can kind of classify as a capital expense or a one-time expense, you'll see has been removed from the budget. Now, there's a couple of reasons why, but one I really want to focus on is I believe that we have a great working relationship between ourselves. I trust you guys, and I believe you trust me. So if I need something or we need something, you better believe I'm going to come and ask. So I don't feel like that I have to disguise anything in the budget or hide something in the budget or pad the budget of extra things aside from what is necessary. So what you'll see in front of you is a completely unpadded, necessary only budget. So when you're wondering or doing comparisons and you see last year's general fund budget, just to kind of give you an idea, last year's general fund budget was proposed and passed negative $1,025,712. And if you look at our proposal for the general fund budget for this year, I don't want to mess this up, but it's negative $29. So you see a drastic change and a drastic improvement towards some conservative spending and some conservative ideology. Go a little partisan for a second. To really make an adjustment to how we are spending and making financial decisions for the city. So all that being said, that's a philosophy I took into planning this budget and the reasons why you see the adjustments that we have. So the most important thing is we've made a choice to invest in people. The second thing is we've made cuts and moved things around to be able to pass a budget as close to balance as possible. Um, I think that's as far as philosophy and how we arrive to the budget you see in front of you. I think that kind of encompasses everything that's on that table. So I think with that, I think I'm pretty much ready for some questions.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. So yeah, what I'd like to do is open it up for questions for council members, and would love to start with Gary. We'll start with Gary and work our way around. So if you have any questions, just you can either direct them to the mayor or whatever department head. And if you don't have any this time, that's okay. You can just pass and we'll move on to the next council member. So the floor is yours, Gary.
Good morning or good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
I was wondering, I was curious about what you just said on the general fund at the end of last year and what it's going to be this year.
Mm-hmm.
You said we were in the negative last year
In
our general fund.
The just to clarify on that, the general fund has capital. We're not negative. The budget that we passed, our income was less than our expenses. Income was greater than our expenses. So that's why when you see from the, I sent you guys a packet called Comprehensive Financial Plan 2022-2027, and you'll see on page 8 in that it outlays each fund. And in the budget that was passed last year had a upside down expenditure from the amount of money we had coming in. So undoubtedly, we end up paying for that out of savings and things like that.
Okay. And on this budget, you gave everybody except fire and police a 5% pay raise, correct?
Fire and police, 5.5%.
Fire and police got 5.5, and everybody else got 5.
Well, so how we did it for the department heads, each submitted what they wanted to do and what they believe would be best for their departments. And whatever raise they submitted to me is what we put into the budget, what I left in the budget.
So you didn't go flat 5% on
No,
everybody?
no. This was merit based on what the department heads believe their employees should get.
So what did it equal out to?
From an average standpoint, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about an average. I know each. If you want to see the percentage, each person has a percentage next to the name that our controller's office can send, but it wasn't a flat percentage for anyone.
So every employee got a different rate of raise?
Yeah, I mean, that's the philosophy I gave them to do, but I don't think that's the truth for everything. But the philosophy was, your department head, I want you to decide. There was they sent out a employee review, and based on the employee reviews that came back, the department heads made the choice on what they believe their employees should be.
Except for fire and police?
Yeah, because that's contract negotiations, yeah.
On union?
Right.
And was transportation locked in on that too?
Transportation's negotiation wasn't at this time, so they got the standard. I gave them this all 5%. Yeah. The same thing with street, because their contract negotiation wasn't right now.
Okay. So are we going through each department tonight, or are we just going general, or?
It's whoever you would like to ask.
Sooner or later, we're gonna have to go through every department. So
If we could,
when do you want to get into that?
if you wouldn't mind, if you have all the questions you have for me, then ask me those questions. Then we can have that specific department you come up, you want to ask questions to, and then ask them whatever questions you have. And then if that's a way to organize it, I'll be okay with that.
Well, I just didn't know how long you wanted this. Normally, we go through every department and line item, and if we've got questions on each department, I don't know how you want to do it.
So
You said this is going to be an in general, and we're going to have more meetings. One thing I'm curious on is like city council, who put our input in there? We generally have a meeting and inject our costs and ours. Who put that in there? You? Instead of all 9 of us? Or I'm just asking.
I'm trying to talk. Yeah, I'm going to respond to you.
Okay, go ahead.
So no, I was not pulled in on any of this. This is the first. I mean, I got the budget book when you got it as well. The budget has not been submitted via Form 3, so it's not been inputted into Gateway yet. So the budget can still be changed. So this is our opportunity to provide that input. And you know, obviously, it was. I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. The only thing I had input on was I met with the controller about the city council's budget, as we'll say, a department within the budget, but I was not included. But this is our opportunity. So this isn't submitted. This isn't the public notice yet. Once it's submitted to public notice, then you cannot add anything. You only subtract. So at this point, from my understanding, Baker Tilly can advise me if I'm wrong, things can be changed up and down, correct? Right? Because this is just a committee meeting. So this is our opportunity. So I'm open to doing it a different method. My original intent was to just go around to each council member because, I mean, we can call up each department head if we think we're going to have a question for each, but I don't think we necessarily need to go through every single line. I mean, we have this to study, to go through and find the questions we need. I went through this book pretty thoroughly, and I might have a couple questions. So I don't think we need to spend the time, my opinion, to go through every single line item. We just point out what questions we might have, just like you asked about the raises. So I would like, you know, that's why I was saying you can start. If you had a certain department you wanted to ask questions to, then you're more than welcome to ask.
So can you ask me who input our figures into the city council's budget? I never got an answer on that. Who put our figures into miscellaneous contractual, IT, pay, travel? Who did that?
Are you talking about for the city council's particular budget?
No, you put it in there.
Yes, for the city council.
I already answered that. I said I
You
met
said
with,
you weren't involved. You met with the controller.
I answered that question. Councilman Fordyce, I stated I met with the controller and I provided input for the city council's budget. I did state that. So I provided that along with Vice President Calga. We were both called in. We met with the controller's office. But again, this is our opportunity, right? This isn't set in stone. Things can be changed. We have to have a starting point. This is our starting point. So Vice President Calga and I met with Controller Galt probably 2 months ago, maybe, and provided our input for the city council budget. But I'm happy to take more input and answer questions on the city councils as well.
Well, most generally, we have a meeting beforehand. We sit down and go over our budget, just like the department heads do. So, I mean, I think everybody should have been included in that, but thanks for your answer.
Well, this is our opportunity. I'm open to input.
I have one question on controller's office. I just see that your education and instruction has been increased from 347 to 800. Is that, I mean, can I get a reason why that has been increased, Dana, on your education and instruction? Because it's never really been quite that high. The previous years, and I know last year it was 347, and you've increased it to 800. Is that just for you?
No, sir, we increased it because the controller's office didn't have enough money to participate in any conferences or trainings this year. So Linda and I went to one, and then she went to one, and then I'm going to one in August. So we didn't have the funds this year to participate in the trainings and the conferences that we needed to. So we increased so that we can participate next year.
Okay, were those the AIM conferences? Or?
Yes.
Okay, you went last year?
And other conferences besides AIMS.
You went this year,
Yes.
2024, right?
Yes.
So you're figuring it's going to increase over twofold on that
Yes.
for your conference? Is that just
Yes.
one conference?
No, that's several throughout the whole year.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all I've got on that one. Appreciate that.
You have another question, Councilman Fordyce?
I do.
Okay.
On several departments. Let's see, Board of Works. I have a question on line 33403 on cyber. If that has increased significantly, 14.5 to 22,000. Is that cyber protection or cyber equipment or?
So that is to support the IT department. So if you don't know, to give you a quick story, you know, Tipton got hacked this past year and shut their whole city down. If you don't know, look it up. So what we've been doing is trying to beef up our cybersecurity, because if somebody were to aim for Marion, God forbid they don't, but we're not prepared. So that's what that's for.
This is a program to protect that from the.
Yes.
Okay. And then on
Insurance.
miscellaneous contractual,
For what?
you went from 40,000 to 93,000.
And that's, I'm sorry, one more answer on that, the clarification on the cyber, that's our cyber insurance as well.
Okay.
So insurance, if just in case we do get hacked. Or what was the next one? I'm sorry.
That's cyber insurance, which you got that.
Mm-hmm.
On your miscellaneous contractual, what's that for, and why did it go up to 93,000 from 40,000?
So if you look at our history of it, so it used to be 158, 316, and it got dropped down to 40 for some reason. I don't know why. But what we did is I put up to 93,000 to be able to add more expenses for our 4th of July celebration. Just to be frank, I'm not gonna lie to anyone. I want our 4th of July celebration to be the best in the county. So I want to make sure that we have more funds to be able to spend towards that. This year I had to go out and raise about $40,000 on my own, like calling people. This year I want to give us a better position to be able to support that event and other events like that.
Okay, so you raised that from 40 to 93,000.
Yep.
$53,000 for 4-H fireworks.
Well, not all of them will go to that, but a significant chunk will go towards improving that event and other events that we'll be having. And again, in all transparency, what you'll notice in a budget of the mayor's budget, I removed travel and a few other things because a lot of the stuff was redundant
from the mayor's budget, you
Yeah.
said? You
Yeah.
removed travel?
Yep, and I believe it was redundant, so I think that we can use the money in that miscellaneous contractual services to
Okay.
be able to do with travel. So I didn't feel like, again, when I opened up the speech, I didn't feel like we needed to do padded budgets and add extra things where they didn't need to be, because we can be transparent with each other and show you how
Okay.
things work.
And on the election expense, you went from 41,000 to 0, so.
There's no
Where'd you
election.
put that?
There's no election.
We
this
have
year.
no expenses on with the election
Not
anymore.
for 25.
Okay.
We'll have to reconsider for the next year, but not for 25.
Okay, and then on transportation match, you went to 394,500. Is that for the
To be able to match the
transit?
transportation grant, yeah, it has to be in our budget to match it.
And just for a little, last year.
Hey, Linda.
The State Board of Accounts.
Can you come to the microphone?
Yes.
Since it is being streamed, I want people to hear you.
Last year, the State Board of Accounts, we were written up because we needed to separate transportation from the general fund. So transportation has its own fund now, 2418. Well, when we did that, there's no match money in Fund 2418. So then the city is responsible for matching that portion of it. That's why we just added it into the Board of Works. And then every quarter, excuse me, after the transportation submits their request to the federal government to be reimbursed,
Mhm.
there'll also be a portion on there of what the city of Marion owes. And then we will just pull that from the Board of Works and put it into the fund we had to establish for transportation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, community development. I have a question on supervisor and community development and Mark. Is that two different people in community development?
Let's do it one more
Under
time.
salary and wages,
First question again, I'm sorry. What was the first one?
under community development, salary and wages.
Okay.
11101, it says supervisor of community development and Mark, $50,000.
Marketing stands for Mark stands for marketing.
Oh, you got that on marketing,
Yeah.
it's just one person.
Yeah.
Because you did away with the deputy director of community
Right,
development.
and then what we've done, so that used to be a full-time, looking back at the history, that was a full-time, and that was kind of the deputy director of economic development and properties.
Sure,
And then, so what we've done, you'll see changes, and if you go to contractual services, we now
I
have,
see that.
the grant writer and our, economic development person in, the contractual services line. So we're actually able to save money on social security, perf, and insurance by doing it contractually instead of having a full-time person serving as that capacity.
You've got grant writer and what else on contractual services for 83,000?
Grant writer, economic development director, and the remainder of the money is for the normal contractual services for the community development department.
Who's your economic development director?
His name is Joe Murphy.
Okay, and he takes care of the properties for the city.
Yeah, doing property. So if you check out our Board of Works meetings and things like that, you'll see a lot of properties been moving at a more frequent pace because we're trying to get them off of our responsibility and back onto the tax roll. So he's
Okay.
in charge of that for us.
And your subscription and dues went up in community development to 500 from 0.
I'll let Layla talk about that other services and charges,
Okay.
other services and charges area.
Good evening.
Hello.
Yes, so the subscription and dues, that went up. We're basically needing more QR codes. We need design services to do in-house designs, just things like that. New
Mhm.
services as well.
Okay, we never have had it in there before, it's always been 0.
Right, we've
So
been
now
maxing
we're at
out, we've been maxing out the other one, and I never even knew that category existed. And
Sure.
I've been in charge of the budget for 8 years, and all of a sudden this one category came out of nowhere. And I said, well, we need money in there.
Mhm. And then I see you increased promotional from 15,000 to 20,000.
More events, more programming, it just means more money for promotions.
Right.
Citywide cleanups, upcoming traveling town halls, the app, everything that we are promoting under this administration just basically needs more money in order to promote,
Okay.
as well as general branding.
So you increased your budget $66,500 from last year.
Is that right? Is that
No.
for expenditures
Total other
or?
charges is 106 and last year it was 39.5.
Which, Councilman Ford, I have
Because
something different.
you reduced Director of Development.
Mike?
On your other, yeah. 249.51.
Yeah, so this is what I'm seeing in mine is their last year's budget was 249 and change, and this year's budget is 251 and change.
Right.
And the way we were able to keep it at just a minimal increase was by removing that full-time position and saving money on Social Security, perf, and insurance, and then putting that in other places.
Yeah, with removing Director of Development. Right. Okay, that's it for that one.
Councilman Fordyce, maybe like 2 more questions and then we can come back around.
Sure. I had a question for David Spesher on the City Hall maintenance agreement. What's the $80,000 maintenance agreement for that we've always had?
Hello, everyone.
It's always been
So
for
what
the
was
last
that
3
question? I'm
years.
sorry.
I was just curious what that maintenance agreement's for City Hall.
That's going to be some more of the big project. We're going to have to seal and stripe our 2 parking lots that we done last year. We're going to have to pave, stripe the police department lot that didn't get done. My dock area is going to have to be paved, get it cleared off. I'm looking to get like a battery operated scrubber for our floor out here. So we're not handling like mopping it with our electric one.
So that doesn't come out of your equipment, machines, and building and structure. It's separate from that. It's a maintenance agreement.
Yeah, well, we got our elevator prices
Sure.
almost
So
went.
you use the elevator company in that also?
Yes, that's on there. We're also, with our heating and air, we've never really had a program where we have a tech, since I've been here or prior, keep updated our heating and air so we don't have these big costs again. We need a preventive maintenance, so we're gonna pay for that for about 2 or 3 times a year. So that's gonna be in the budget to keep that, because everything's good. We gotta get our controls and stuff correct. So that's another price that's gonna cost us in that
Okay.
maintenance agreement.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it. I'll go ahead. That's
Okay,
there.
all right. Thank you.
Come back around.
Councilman Marshall.
Yes, excuse me. So I'm all new to this, so it's a lot to take in. So my question is more 30,000 feet. Going back to when you introduced the budget, you said that you had gone from us having a negative 1.2 million to negative $29. Is that correct? Or
I mean, I want to make sure that is make sure I'm wording that correctly. Is by negative meaning that our cash is not negative. It meant that we
we were spending $1.2 million more than we were bringing
had
in.
coming in. That's what I mean.
So
yeah.
what would you attribute this drastic switch around?
How did I do it?
That
That's what
sounds
you're
like
asking
some
me.
magic that you might have bragged about a little bit
Yeah.
while you were introducing that fact, because that seems like a big
Mhm.
swing to me. So if you could give me some highlights to that.
Yeah. So how do we do
And
it? So
how you were able to do that and still increase salaries for employees.
yeah. So a couple highlights of it is one. This year was the first year the state legislature allowed for TIF proceeds to be used for public safety accommodations in their salaries for operations is what I mean to say. So I went to our redevelopment commission and asked them for $200,000 to be able to offset that cost. So that was one step. The next step was, which again is subject to your approval, but in the edit fund is traditionally can be used for anything. And so what I decided to do is take $300,000 of that and distribute that to public safety. So now that's $500,000 that was cut off of that. And then there was some other miscellaneous changes. I can't remember all of them. Oh, Paige can share. Well,
I can't remember all of them either.
yeah. Well, she helped me walk through this because my goal was, I mean, again, as a businessman, as a house, I can't do this for too long in my own business or my own house. So I feel like that. Why should I be doing this with everyone else's money if I can't live like that myself? So that's why I want to do everything we could and pull every lever possible to assure that we were balanced. Oh, capital outlay. We took capital outlays out, which again, I personally believe is just padded because of past relationship issues. So I didn't pad anything. So when we need something, I'm just going to ask you. So when the police need more cars, I'm just going to ask you. When the building department needs something, we're just going to come and ask you. So it's not like I got to try to sneak it in the budget or try to hide it somewhere to hope you don't catch it or something. I'm just going to tell you right now, if we need something, January 5th, I'm just going to come and ask you. So that's the leverage we did to be able to even it out.
But I would add, hopefully with the ARPA infusion that we have in so many different areas in our community, that we will be, get to go a ways before we have to start, spending money again on things like that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I forgot to highlight, if you look in your thicker budget book, which is this one, you'll see that the city of Marion, as of January 1st, 2025, will have a cash reserve of $8.3 million, which is 34.8%. And recommended is
Not less than 15%, but we would like you to be,
Yeah, if you could.
Paige Sanson with Baker Tilly. So cash reserves, we recommend that you do not fall below 15% of your disbursements, but the recommended levels about 25 to 30%.
And then, I mean, just philosophically, I don't want to look like we're hoarding cash. So when it's time to come in, all of our departments are done a CIP, capital improvement plan, that they submitted to me, and there are specific asks for each department that they will come and bring to you in the turn of the year.
Great. Thank you, Councilman Marshall. And just for clarity, for anyone watching on YouTube or anyone in the audience or council, so yeah, the negative is we kept going into our cash reserves year after year. We have paid some things off. Remember, we as a council approved to pay off that loan. Well, that one loan we had, it was $136,000, and so yeah, we paid some things off this year, and we were able to cut some things out for the future budget. So, Councilman Kane.
Thank you for the opportunity to ask some questions. Thank you for the department heads showing up here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just kind of using this tonight as gathering information for my point. So at this point in time, I will have questions at a later meeting. I'm not going to ask questions tonight. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. We'll go ahead and start at the corner. We'll end with Vice President Calgill and I. So, Councilman Klein.
I was really looking forward to going last. I figured everybody else would ask questions, and the big question that I have, the big issue that I have, I see that we had I didn't go through, some of the electeds there are raises in there for them, including the mayor, the city clerk, and that's fine, except that I don't think electeds should vote themselves raises. And I said that last year when we talked about raises for the city council. I would like to see an ordinance passed saying that if mayor, council, any elected gets a raise, it happens after the next election. That's my big sticking point that I found in this. And beyond that, I'm like Councilman Kane. I want to listen right now. And thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Klein. Councilwoman Devine.
Good evening. Again, I want to reiterate, thank you for coming and for having all the department heads here and putting up with half of us being brand new, and I'm sure having a lot of questions trying to make sure we understand what we're looking at. When you've been talking about having the budget where we're not spending more than what we're bringing in, you're including in that some cash reserves to balance the budget out. Because based on what I'm seeing on page 2 of the proposed budget from Baker Tilly, you've got your budget estimate at 35 million and change, and your maximum estimated funds to be raised is 24.5 million. So with our current tax levy being at 23.5 million, so to me that says that we're going to be pulling 8 million out of cash balance, and I just want to make sure I'm not reading this wrong. So
I'll try to
Go ahead.
I'll try to answer that. Explain. So if we're looking at what page is this on? So if you see a column B, that is how much money we will be spending. Yeah, you do it.
Also, let me add before you say anything too. I would highly recommend, if you haven't, any council members between now and the next budget committee meeting, there was an AIM training this year on budgets. It's about 3.5 hours long. Highly recommend you watch it. It will go through everything in detail that you're wondering. But I'll let you answer the question because I know the answer is no, but go ahead and do it in detail.
Thank you. So in your packets, you should have something that looks like this. I think this, to me, I like to simplify things down to the very basic level. It should have been maybe the first page after the cover page. Oh. And this is what the mayor was just referencing in column B, the receipts. So your general fund budget is funded by not just property tax, that's the primary funding source, but there's also lots of other funding sources, including local income tax and fines and fees, et cetera, et cetera. So we are estimating receipts for 2025 in the general fund of $23,976,669. And your disbursements are pretty close to that, $23,976,640. So you're actually better than balanced by $29. So yes, it's as close to balanced as you could possibly get, unless it was zero. But that's what the mayor was referencing about balancing the budget.
And my fault, I was saying that wrong. I said we was negative 29,000. We're actually positive 29,000.
Yes,
You're
actually positive.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, and to kind of clarify, and if you want to stay at the microphone, just in case I'm wrong, but we do have other expenses, but we pay for those expenses out of those other funds, like the municipal wheel tax, that transportation grant, all of that. So the rest of those line items are other expenditures for the city, just not out of the general fund. Am I correct?
Right. There's lots of other funds you can see listed here. Most of them are completely balanced with the revenues. And as the mayor stated, kind of one of the ways that he balances budget was to shift some cost to other funds that could take on those costs. So yeah, there's a good balance there in the general fund between recurring receipts that are coming in and recurring disbursements.
Well, and I understand that as far as general go, but I was talking the overall budget total.
Oh, the total.
If you're looking at that page 2, that's talking about the total under section form 3, page 2. That's where I got that 35 million, because we're talking, when we go to approve the whole budget, we're not just approving general fund, we're approving all of those other funds that, and so that's where I was going with that, was trying to figure out where that additional.
So really to look at that, if you're going to compare the Form 3, yes, you've got about 35 million of expenditures, you've got 24.5 million in levy, and then there's all these budget Form 2s that are in your book that are all the miscellaneous revenue. So we have to add all of those as well. I don't know if there's a grand total on all of those, but when you look at that Form 3, it's kind of misleading because it's only showing you the property tax portion and not all those other revenues.
And that's what I was asking, because that's when you look at that, and if somebody just sees that ordinance when it's published.
Right.
I wanted to make sure that we could understand it and know, so that, they're gonna say, oh, well, you keep saying it's budgeted and it's balanced, but we see an $8 million
It doesn't look like
deficit
it.
here.
Yep.
Exactly.
Right.
So those are all gonna be covered under the Form 2.
Yes, those are all the
miscellaneous.
rest of the miscellaneous revenue.
Okay.
Yeah, and one of the biggest ones under Form 2 is the local option income tax. So all those revenues help get us to that 35.
Yep.
So looking at Form 2. I think one of my biggest questions, which I know I've heard voiced, is over the salaries not having a percentage that you gave to everybody. When everybody is allowed to give increases within different departments and give different amounts, if it's not specific to a flat amount, that can create a lot of inequities for down the road. Because then you might have, as an example, an administrative assistant secretary to start, at a basic line. Now you've got 12 of those because you have 12 departments, and this is just as an example, and they're all making something different. Now, I know that should be a little bit of variation based on years of service and some longevity and things of that nature. But by creating that inequity within ourselves, then as positions are empty, you're gonna start people wanting to move from one department to another because they're making more money. And so that's definitely one of my concerns. I've not 100% made it through all of these, but that was one of the first things I saw was those percentages being quite a bit different from one to another.
And I think I'm sorry, what you doing?
Nick, go ahead.
The philosophy behind that was I inherited inequity, so now we're trying to even it out, right? And then in order to even out inequity, you have to be equitable, you have to give people I believe what they deserve, right? So we've inherited this inequitable system now. Just like in other things, we have to come in and correct it. And in order to correct it, this has thus led us to some percentages varying between different positions. That was the idea behind it.
And I understand that, and I'm not saying that there isn't a need to do some of those changes. But looking forward, when we do budgets, we also have to be thinking future, because as we know, attrition happens, people leave, they retire. And if you don't have something in place, then what's to stop that department head from, and maybe that's what we want them to do, and that's fine, but what's to stop that department head from hiring in at the highest level of somebody who maybe been here 30 years and retired versus what an entry level salary should be?
And I think that's why we have such great men and women behind us on department heads to be able to use that discretion when they're bringing people in, I trust them, and I know you all trust them as well to be able to make those right decisions for the city. But I 100% understand what you're saying.
And if we're talking high overview versus individual line items by line items, one of my other questions was about the health insurance fund. I know that in the past, it's been budgeted at roughly $20,000 per person. And I saw that continued this year. I wanted to find out and make sure that the health of that fund is where it needs to be, and that we think the 20,000 is still a correct number per person. Because I know we definitely don't want that fund to go back into the negative and have to pull from other places.
I'm smiling because I forgot about this, and I'm so excited to share this with you. So with the consultation of IMG and working through, as we know, the insurance fund every year has had to borrow from other funds up to the tune of $1 million. So I was faced with the decision, do we renew with Anthem, and Anthem's current, which I have the packet in front of me, I don't want to miss, these numbers are to the dot because I don't have that insurance packet with me, it's in my office. But to renew with Anthem would have been about a $5.5 million expense when we were currently paying $5 million. So what I had to do was make the executive decision to switch from Anthem to United Health. And in switching from Anthem to United Health, we were able to save the employees on the deductibles from $3,000 to $6,000 to now $1,500 and $3,000, and also save the city $486,000 in expenditures on insurance. So we were able to cut the insurance expenses by almost $500,000 with actually giving better insurance and benefits to the employees than what we had before. And if you like a copy of that to have those numbers down to a T, I have it in my office. I also have it with me right now.
If you don't mind, I think just so that we can look at that.
Okay.
And so then I guess then our 20,000 should be good per person with that.
That I believe that would get us in the right direction.
Okay.
Currently, we have $758,000, and we still have not transferred the second portion of health insurance over, which is roughly a little over $2 million. So we're actually doing really well this year in health insurance.
And speaking on that, everyone knows that we're self-funded. So in self-funded systems, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Thankfully, we're winning at this moment, very aggressively winning. We don't have any super severe sicknesses, which all could change if unfortunately somebody gets like, God forbid, like cancer or something like that, that makes our expenses run up. But right now we're performing very well. I have a lot of money in that fund.
And can you tell me, do we hold to the same numbers as we do the general fund? We try and have somewhere between the 15 and 25% of in the cash reserves on that. I assume.
Well, so Baker Tilly didn't analyze that fund, but yes, you should hold somewhere around that percentage in that particular fund. The last time I looked at that fund, it looked good.
Okay. So I'm assuming that will make that other transfer
Yeah,
this
so
year
we do it
regardless.
Quarterly, yeah,
Okay.
so we've got that, so I've taken, well, the council, if you have 9 people, 180,000, I've taken half of that so far out. And I'll transfer another this quarter, and then I'll transfer the final the 4th quarter.
I think I'll hold there. Everything else I
Okay.
have is fairly specific, but I wanted some of the higher overview ones first.
Great, thank you so much. Councilman Witten.
I appreciate everybody's time and a very thorough budget. It's my first time going through it. I don't have any questions at this time, but thank you. I will get back to people as I go through it and understand it more.
Great, thank you. Vice President Calgill.
Again, yeah, I thank you guys for taking your time out. Tonight, most of my questions, I think, are gonna be for you, as far as like we was able to give, in my opinion, very good raises, and I agree with the mayor, it was time to invest in the people, because it doesn't matter if we don't have people working here, everything we have doesn't matter. The raises that was given out and everything, is that because of, we can use TIF money now, like the mayor said? Or like, I know you did a plan, not just for this year, but for the next 2 or 3 years. So, do you think that we could keep giving raises? Or is it gonna be that we give a good raise and now, it's gonna be stuck for a few years?
I'll answer that, let her go. Yeah, so, yes, we were able to give raises because I budgeted in the edit fund and out of the TIF to be able to give specifically public safety, might I add, on record, the highest raise in the last 30 years. So, just get that on record. But that's how we were able to leverage that. So now, from a TIF perspective, Baker Tilly, but a different division of them, Andrew Moser does that for us, and that's sustainable for us to be able to continue there for the next 15 years. Now, edit fund, it is what it is. I'll come every single year and ask, can we keep doing that? That's it.
Okay. And then I also understand that you had the department heads kind of look at the raises for the people in their departments and so on. Did you do the department head raises yourself, or how did that come about?
Yeah, I did department head raises and department heads did their people.
Okay. I also agree with some type of a merit system, because there's just some people, that they just make more. I would encourage you though, I got one, and I'm not saying that I haven't talked to you about already before. Mr. Falsnight covers 3 different departments. I wouldn't do that job, but no, you couldn't pay me enough to do that job. I would encourage you to, we kind of look at that and make the pay accordingly as well. I tell you, I think I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna go by the budget now, and I'm gonna go department by department later, and then I'll have all my questions ready, and however much time you allow us from that point on, will be good.
Okay. Great, thank you. Yeah, like I said, I just wanted this to be kind of a 30,000 foot level, get some initial questions out, high level questions, and then depending on time today, we might be able to get in more deeper questions. And then of course, we can schedule another meeting where we then can just have each department head come up one at a time, really start drilling in if there are specific questions. So I just have a couple questions.
Hey, I'm sorry to add.
Oh, go ahead.
People are available on your, like, if you ever want to email them or email me and get with the department heads, we're open. So you don't have to wait to another budget committee. You can always ask them at your will, you know. So ask them any questions, and we're all on the same page on this, so we'll be good.
And real quick, I appreciate that, Mayor, because that hasn't been the thing in the past. We wasn't allowed to talk to, we wasn't allowed to communicate. That makes it so much easier for us to understand more of what they need, what they're, going through. So I do appreciate the fact that you love to do that.
Yeah, and I encourage that. So if there's specific questions about one item compared to another, yeah, I mean, if the mayor is okay with it, either contact the mayor or he said you can email the department heads, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
I would prefer, just so we don't load them down, send them an email with the questions you have for them, and then they'll get back with you in a timely manner.
Great, thank you. A couple questions, some of them based off of other questions that have been asked already. The $300,000 from the edit fund. So pulling the $300,000 from the edit fund, that's obviously contingent on the council approving that $300,000, correct?
That's contingent on the council approving the whole edit fund. We can have that conversation too, but yeah, that's what that's contingent for.
Okay. I'm just saying, so this budget is contingent on an approval of the edit fund.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to make sure all the council members heard that. Question on the healthcare, trying to keep this high level, but basically, I know you brought the deductibles, but are we giving up, the city employees giving up anything on their healthcare by switching to Anthem? Are there going to be any surprises that go, well, we got the $1,500, but now we're losing this? Are there any surprises?
No, so we had, I think it was 2 or 3 committees. So I have an insurance committee that I have to meet with prior to making any changes. So we had 2 or 3 meetings, and it involves both union representations and all 4 union representations and the civilian employee representation. And that was some of the questions that came about. And then actually in the union contract said you have to give comparable insurance. You can't just not nix people. So insurance management group knows that, and our committee of insurance people knew that as well. So we actually gave comparable benefits and more affordable for the city and more affordable for the user.
Great. Now, is this also including the vision and dental? Is that staying at the same provider?
That's a separate,
okay,
separate thing.
I know some people just lump that health insurance into
No,
one thought, but this is medical, but the dental and vision is still staying the same. Okay, thank you. A couple more questions here. I did have a question on central dispatch for Board of Works. Just a general question. We're paying $464,000. I'm assuming that is to the county?
Correct.
Is that a payment to the county then? Okay.
When we
That's what I thought.
got rid of dispatch here and they joined with the county, they signed an agreement. I can't remember for the amount of years.
Yeah.
But that was the agreement that we signed to pay that for
Okay.
the next 9 years. I do have that upstairs.
Okay. Thank you. Debt service question on animal control. There was 75,000 last year. We're budgeted for 100,000 this year, 100,000 next year. I don't know if anyone can answer what that debt service is on animal control.
So
Could you come up to the mic?
The city pays contributes a portion to animal care control, and that was a portion of it, the $100,000. We had to raise it because we were in the positive for a while. So then we reduced it, but now it finished last year, $29,000 in the hole. Probably going to finish this year even worse if we don't. We're going to have to have that conversation with the mayor after we get this process finished, to ask for a little bit more money to be able to help animal care control.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I just want to make sure that they're getting the proper funding. I know that she's communicated about the years past, so
Yep.
just wanted to understand that and make sure they're getting what they need. So thank you. I think I have 1 or 2 more here. Get to my highlights. Mayor, you still plan on keeping the city attorney, the current situation on salary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And is that still a full-time position, 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 here?
I'm sure he prefers it would be 9 to 5, but it's really like 12 to 12 and 9 to 9. It's long hours, but the amount of service we get from him is well beyond the amount of money that we're paying. So the hours he's putting in for us is tremendous. So I'm sure that he would prefer to be 9 to 5 instead of the long hours we're working. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think I have one more here. Let me get to it. This one was more, and I don't know if it matters with this green book or not, because I didn't compare to see if that transferred over to the other book. More of a typo, I think. So under Information Technology Department, it just shows that I think 2023 current should actually be 2024 current. I just want to make sure that that's corrected.
Yeah, at the top.
Doesn't really mean anything.
Okay.
It's just a easier way for the council to look at and look at this.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just didn't want this to be like submitted and then it not get caught. So
This is just for you guys.
great, thank you. And then one other high-level suggestion for information technology, and I think I might have told you this before, Mayor, but currently we only have one employee in IT, and he's here. Danny does a phenomenal job. And maybe Danny can speak to this too, but from a redundancy, I come from the IT world, and I've told Danny this as well. Makes me really nervous. Like, Danny is a valuable asset here. He retains a lot of information about our systems, but what's the backup plan, right? So in the future, do we plan on hiring like a help desk technician or somebody else that can work alongside you? One, to take some of the workload off that you put a lot of hours into, but also just to have that redundancy, and God forbid.
Sure.
I mean, at some point you're going to
You never
retire,
know.
right? Yeah.
You never
So
know.
do we have any plans for adding an additional IT employee in the future?
Yeah, that's the goal, to get that department with at least another person. We weren't able to squeeze it in for this budget cycle, but that is the goal, to make that happen. And I know Danny would appreciate the help too. We
Sure.
work Danny very, very hard.
Sure.
So
All right.
And we're working on some stuff now anyways.
we're working on doing some contractual stuff to be able to help out.
Get our
Yeah.
feet going here
Yeah.
and see what's going to work best for us. So.
And speaking from the cybersecurity level, that's what we're really working on
Yes.
with the department. Again, right now, just to be honest with you, we're kind of, how do I say it?
We're lacking.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
we're lacking.
it's always changing, and that
Yeah.
we didn't.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like
There wasn't a lot of
I don't
money
think Russia has
focused.
their eye on us, but I'm just saying we're vulnerable. That's the word I
Yes.
want to use. We're vulnerable.
We've been way behind on IT for years, and that exact thing happened.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say under what mayor, but years past where we lost the head of the IT guy, and it put us in a real bind for a long time.
Mhm.
Great. I just wanted to make sure that discussion's being had, and
Yep.
that sounds great.
Yep.
So I just
Yeah.
come from that area, and it's a passion of mine. So thank you, Danny.
Thanks.
All right, last thing that I have is just more on the police pay. I know the fire department, the union has already agreed to their contract. And then I believe, just for public transparency, the police union came and asked to open it up for an increase in pay as well. And I think that's still ongoing. I just want the council to be aware, the mayor and I talked about earlier, that is still under discussion. So I believe what's in there for police officer pay is right now at the 5.5%. But I don't know, Mayor, if you're comfortable discussing that, or if you want to kind of hold off on that. I just want to make sure that we're prepared, the council's prepared.
What I will say is, when you see their bottom line, $8,013,050, is what it is. That bottom line number won't change. I think that's the safest thing to say.
Okay, sounds good. Of course, you know, obviously I'm a big proponent for public safety pay. So I think our public safety definitely needs to be competitive with surrounding communities. So whatever we can do to get there efficiently and quickly, but also keep a balanced budget would be much appreciated. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tight, definitely a tight rope, and I'm in 100% agreement with Council President McKinley, and that's why I mean, for us to be able to pull this $500,000 from the edit fund and from the Redevelopment Commission TIF was really an effort to try to how we make public safety one of our biggest investments. And I did a calculation by the time we do these raises that are written and a rough calculation. These raises written and what we invested from the ARPA, in year one we spent roughly about $2.5 million on public safety between raises and the ARPA expenditure. So I love them as well, and they've got the largest amount of raise in history. Say it one more time for the record, largest raise in the last 30 years, and we want to continue to keep investing in them. But just like anything, we have a whole entire city that really have to make sure it stays balanced and keeps rolling. So we do the best that we can and keep giving accommodations as we're able to.
Great, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and stop there for myself. I do have more questions, but we'll wait. Just want to make sure we have fair and equitable time around the council. So Councilman Fordyce, did you have any other questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I've just got two. One for Jerry, if you've got a minute. You've got $25,000 in there for overtime. Is that for when you have to come to council meetings? No, seriously, I mean, you got everybody's salary. What do you have $25,000 for overtime in there? Just quick, brief. But I know it is for council meetings too, when you guys show it.
I know, the reason we got additional money was, we've had a shortage for a period of time on secretaries, so we had to have money there. We asked for additional money so that next year, we would like to have that money available. Will we use it all? Probably not.
Okay, you just put it in there for time.
But we wanted to have a safety net there.
Sure.
And we're not trying to pad like the mayor said.
Oh, no.
This is a safety
No,
net
that's
so
fine.
that we have it available to us.
I just figured you put it in a line item. I see you just increased it from last year. I figured it was
Yes.
additional help or something.
Yes.
I wouldn't blame you if you put it in there for council meetings. I'd like to get. No, that's all I got for you, Jerry. Thank you.
Okay,
The other thing I got, if Chief Curtis, I just got a couple questions for you real quick, and then I'll quit.
Oh, hello, good evening.
I see, and I've always been concerned on this, and I know I've talked to you in detail about it. We still are doing and we tried this under Chief David, the $170,000 for vacation buyback. And when we did that for Chief David, I know that was in contract negotiations. It was to cut down overtime.
Correct.
But we're still at $350,000 on overtime. And then he came back to us for another $100,000. So we were way over on overtime. So have we got that any farther under control on overtime?
Absolutely.
Great.
What we're finding out, the trend is, because of our department is very young, half of our department literally has 6 years or less of seniority. So by that means less vacation is actually being used because they don't have vacation. The actual vacation buyback is helping with overtime. It's small increments here and there, but it does help over time. But we're trending right now, and I've been tracking all year. We're on pace to spend right at the 350 plus or minus 10,000, depending on what happens in the holiday season.
And that's plus the extra $100,000 for vacation buyback. So you'll be at 450,000 on overtime?
No, we'll be right at the 350 budget for this year. Okay. So next year, I anticipate it may be even less than that.
Oh, great. Fantastic. That's all I have for you, sir. I appreciate it very much. Oh, just one other thing. I'm sorry. I'm sure you can address this, but your quartermaster went from 50,000 down to 10,000.
Correct.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, the 50,000 is for the initial purchase of all the uniforms.
Oh, okay.
That we're going to have for this year. Chief David did it a couple years ago, but if we needed to tweak that program just a little bit, and we did that with negotiations. And so the initial is we're starting fresh because some of the things worked out, some of the things didn't. So we're starting fresh. So the 50,000 will be to buy everybody the same thing, the same amount of everything. And so the other 10,000 for next year is just to manage what's been bought this year.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
All right.
Councilman Fordyce, any other questions?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Councilman Marshall, Councilman King, go ahead.
Not a question, but a comment.
Turn your mic on.
So Mike, Mr. Klein, and I have differences in our philosophy as far as elected official raises. And so,
I still love you.
oh yeah, of course. Yeah, everybody does. So, I feel that, you're saying, I know what you're saying. You're saying that, let's wait until a new election cycle. Well, when that happens, that pay raise may happen and it may not, depending on the political climate. And so I think last year, the council, we voted ourselves a raise, which amounted to, and I described it this way, it amounted to half a tank of gas, if you remember, half a tank of gas per month over 12 months. That's what our raise amounted to. And we travel a lot in our job going around the community. And so I feel that everybody, elected officials, certainly department heads, everybody working in the city deserves some type of cost of living increases, including this council. Me personally, I could care less. But what I don't want to happen is 4 years go by without any raises for anybody on this council, and then a new election cycle comes up and say, okay, we need to increase that pay. Well, to be fair, that would have to be a 15% raise. Well, that's not going to happen. And so I think if you take small increments every year, cost of living increases, and plug that in, I think you're more fair to everybody involved, employees and elected officials, and the mayor's position. The mayor's position hasn't probably had a raise in many, many years. This goes back
14.
This goes back many, many decades of years that went by and raises were not given to the council, not given to the mayor, not given to any elected officials, and they just fall behind. And that's not fair to the people that are coming on new, whether it be council members, a new mayor, Mayor Morrell won't be here forever. We want him to be, but he won't be here forever. Somebody else needs to take over, and he needs to have a decent salary when he comes on board. So I really feel that when raises are passed out, if the city can afford them, I think everybody deserves that, including elected officials. Enough said. That's my comment for the night.
Thank you, Councilman Kane. Appreciate that. Moving over to, you want to come to the mic? You want to say something real quick?
I was going to say something
Okay.
too for,
We'll get
as far as elected officials, the mayor's position hasn't had a raise since 2010. But it's important to keep in mind too, whatever you start out the year at, you can't increase your salary in that year. It has to be for the next year. So if you start out making $100 for 2025, you can't come back and say, we want to increase our salary in 2025. You have to wait until 2026. So just keep in mind, if you want to give yourself a raise, you have to make the decision during this budget cycle. You can't come back next year in February and say, we'd like to give ourselves a raise. Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Fall, for bringing that up. So point well taken. The mayor's position, an increase since 2010. Here we are going into the 2025 budget It's been 15 years since our mayor, whoever that might be, has gotten a raise. So remember that. I think that's important.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilman Klein, anything?
I'm comfortable.
Councilwoman Devine?
Yeah, not right now. I mean, I do have other
Okay.
stuff. I do have other questions, but more individual department by department.
Well, I mean, we have a little bit of time at 7:11 if you want to ask a couple. Get them out of the way.
Not to lead us into a, 4-hour meeting.
No, we put a 2-hour cap on it, so we're trying to keep the next meeting from being 4 hours too.
I mean, I think the only other comment for the moment, for future budgets, and I think you and I talked a little bit about this, Mayor, that maybe going forward, if, when the budget's put together, if the department head could do just like a one-page summary of the things that they've done differently in the next year's budget that they proposed. That things that we're now asking, why is it more here versus there? Why is this year, if they could just do kind of a summary of those line items that we bumped this up because we anticipated whatever to be more, or we needed to put in for a new vehicle or a new piece of equipment. And I think that would make a lot of these little questions go away from us, because we would have that up front with the budget. And that's where most of my stuff falls in. And as you said, if we can reach out to the department heads, I may just run some emails out and do it that way real quick. But just a suggestion going forward.
Anything else?
I'm good for the moment.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Councilman Witten.
I think I'm good for the moment, thank you.
Vice President Calgo.
Yeah, I did have one, I forgot on the insurance, and you kind of brought it up, Mayor. I just want to make sure that we don't get, like, under the couple of previous administrations ago, we had Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. I've worked for the city for years, through the fire department, everything. We never had any problem with the insurance. I mean, it was wonderful. And then a couple administrations ago, they switched. Then, now all of a sudden, we went to where our bills wasn't getting paid, not by us, but by the insurance. All of us was getting taken to collections. I mean, it was a mess. So when we switch, that's not gonna be that situation, right?
I will say I did get an earful about that from the committee. So I don't get to make these decisions in isolation on this, right? So this is a committee, and everybody from every union representation said, I think it was called ELAP, ELONG, or something like that.
Yeah,
whatever you do, don't go to that. So from the insurance perspective, I'm sure Councilman McKinney can speak on this. Anthem and United Healthcare are like neck and neck fighting for the top level competition, right? So switching from Anthem to United Healthcare isn't a drop off, decrease. Somebody hands you a card and say, figure out how to pay it. This is still both top level performing companies, and we're actually partnering with Marion Health on this to make this really affordable. So we'll have a direct contract with Marion Health to be able to support them as they support us, and et cetera. So no, this isn't a drop off with some third rate insurance companies. Are both top level dogs fighting each other for the top spot.
Okay, that was the only thing I had.
Yeah, I mean, I've had United Health or UMR many times, probably more than I've had Anthem, and I've had no problems. Now, I will say, this is probably discussed in your committee, but as far as what providers take Anthem versus UMR, that could be a disruptor to some people, right? They might want a certain provider or a certain hospital that may only take Anthem and not UMR. So I think that I'm sure it's going to be discussed and gone through in detail. So just want us to be cognizant of that. But if it's saving the city money, and it's better deduct. I mean, so you're saying everyone's going to go to a $1,500 per person, $3,000 per family. Is that correct?
Yeah, I need to send you guys the things. I don't want to misspeak, but essentially, the direct contract with Marion Health allows for anybody that's going anywhere in Marion Health's network, $1,500 and $3,000. Now you can still go to IU Health if you want to, but then it goes back to the $3,000 and $6,000.
Oh, so this is stipulated on a Marion Health.
Right. Yeah. So anything in Marion Health network is $1,500 and $3,000. You can still attend. Go to any hospital you can dream of, but then it goes back to the 3,000 and 6,000.
And
But I'll send you the packet because I'm not super educated on it. I want to make sure you read the information from the insurance people.
yeah, I just want to make sure that's managed well. I mean, who keeps track of, I mean, the insurance company isn't going to keep track of that. Marion Health has to keep track of that, I'm sure.
Yes, they have. So we're not, again, we didn't do this as a guinea pig, right? So the county already has this program, and the school system already has it too. Yeah, so yeah, this is already a tried and true Texas thing. We were just the last ones to move over to this.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Last couple, I think I have, just to address this, street maintenance. So this is going to fall under engineering planning department under repairs and maintenance 336-04 street maintenance, 260,000. I just want to understand what all is falling under that street maintenance category. Is that potholes? Is that striping? Like, kind of tell me what that 260,000 would pay for.
I'm here.
Okay. I was about to make something.
Yeah, potholes. Yeah, obviously, as I stated before, we subcontract all the potholes. Skip patching if we've got bad areas that are just need minor repairs, that'll fall into that. We have areas around town that have sinkholes, and the older systems that we have, the old steam lines are failing and causing sinkholes. And out of that money, I take care of traffic maintenance as well because they don't have a budget. Rhonda is paid out of Randy's budget as far as the individual people, but all the items that she purchases for street signs or signals or paint or tools or anything that she needs is taken care of by me. So it's a very broad use of that.
Okay.
And as Linda would say, I use it first so that she can't come after it later. But yeah, it's very broad usage of materials for it.
So I'm glad you brought up like street lights. So you're talking even like overhead street lights and poles come out of this?
Signals.
Signal. Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant
Signal
to say
lights.
signals. Yeah.
Yes, that the overhead lights, the LED lights are handled through the board works.
So on the street signals, so just kind of a question. So we've had several either get ran over. The one at Kim and Wabash Avenue has been blinking forever because I've been told there's a part missing.
Yeah.
So are we, do we have enough in that 260,000 to replace these? Because I see like one now we have like stop signs in place. Does it just take a long time to get those ordered, or we just don't have the money to buy them?
Both. Yeah, I mean, the money is, hopefully that if a traffic at 10th and Nebraska is what you're talking about, where the control panel was actually hit by a vehicle. Sometimes we're lucky and the vehicle is disabled and we can get insurance to replace that. A lot of times it's a hit and run and we don't get any money to replace it. So yeah, it comes out of that. The biggest problem that we've got is a lot of these systems are antiquated, even the ones that Rhonda does a very good job of trying to keep it, as the old adage with baling wire and duct tape. But the systems are upgrading rapidly. The cost of those systems are very expensive. When the one at Kim and Wabash, we're in hopes that we finally got everything ready to go, had the controller module in and got a lightning strike just before we could get it operational. So now we're waiting for a new module to come in, and that's about a $6,000 module, which again, that comes out of that. So hopefully, as the mayor expressed, in the future, we can come back in for some of these capital improvement stuff because that department needs some assistance, whether it's coming from me or they really need a specific line item in the budget that takes care of their needs. Because if I have a big capital expenditure out of the street maintenance, they're going to be hurting because there's no other funds to take care of them.
And then specifically on the Kim and Wabash one, just correct. I remember our conversation with Engineer Mike, is the previous administration made a decision to leave it as a blinking thing. So when I came into office, I said, no, we need to fix that. And then you had to order it, and it took, how long did it take to come in?
We just really got it in about maybe 3 weeks ago.
And I made that decision in like February.
Yeah.
So that's, that's how long it takes. So it's not like I didn't want to do it, but the previously administration decided to leave it as a blinking light. I said, I want to fix it and make it work at its full capacity. And now here we are 6 months later, we're just now getting it. And I guess it gets struck by lightning. So yeah. So.
Okay, yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I know those need, some of those are antiquated. I just want to make sure that we're budgeting enough to replace those, and even the ones that are hardly operating or have issues, we need to make sure.
We had the discussion, and obviously, as the mayor started out with, in where we're at, we wanted to look at the people first. That is definite need. I expressed that need during our conversations, and we're going to look at ways going into next year on how we'll handle that. So.
I do philosophically believe that that's still a capital expenditure outlay that we would have to come and ask for. Now, maintenance on them wouldn't be capital expenditure, which would take care of it there. But as far as if we're going to get new something, then I think we can put that under our capital expenditure ask.
And then the last thing I know we're currently discussing alleys right now on the council meetings. But I guess, so again, that street maintenance, does that include anything for alley maintenance? Or I know we're still going through that appropriation process, but anything in the current budget for alleys?
No, sir. What we're asking for is it, and as was asked in some of the other meetings, when we look at the alleys, have we ever budgeted money? Mm-hmm. Well, it's $250,000, but if you start looking at the costs, which we gave you a breakdown of the cost, $250,000 is about half a dozen alleys if you were to take them down to asphalt. But we use that funding as we get calls for patching, and Randy does a good job with millings or stone as needed. But yeah, there hasn't been in a great number of years any increase in that to handle that.
All right, and the last is the public tree maintenance. I did see this year the current, well, I think the 2024 current it's not current because we don't really know yet. It says 12,000. Do we know out of that, and this may not be, I don't know if you have the number in front of you or the controller does, but how much we've spent for public tree maintenance? Because this is another area I believe has been neglected in the city. A lot of the trees, I know we passed some tree removal a couple months ago, and we've got some things we're going through on the council on that for changing the tree board. But and the mayor and I have talked quite a bit about trees and removing trees and the right of way, dead trees, trimming trees. But that 12,000 that we have this year looks like in the years past 4,000, 9,000. That public tree maintenance, can you tell me what are we spending? What does that go to? Is that trimming trees up, cutting them down?
Yeah. So most of the trimming trees up, Randy and his guys try to do, or we'll get the inmate work crew to do it. Anything that they can't get next to because of power lines, that's kind of where I will come in. But it's kind of a misnomer on when you read the public tree. The public tree is really anything that falls within our city properties, and we have a lot of city properties. We have a lot of trees that fall on the neighbors' properties from our trees, and typically that's taken care of. We don't do anything in the right of way. The right of way is the property owner's responsibility. Has been for as long as I've been here. That's always been the conversation. Obviously, we get differing opinions on that, but my particular budget is meant for parks. We've helped remove trees at the parks because their budget is limited. We've helped remove trees on properties that Jerry's guys have done demos on, that the trees have sit there for many years. they become in disrepair and will fall on neighbors' fences or whatever, and then we come in there and take care of that. But that's on city-owned properties, not public right-of-way.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So Mayor, then on that, on the trees, so I'm glad he cleared up the public tree maintenance. I wasn't sure where that fell, but I do believe I think trees in the right of way is a huge issue, kind of like we have houses we have to tear down. We tear them down, but then we put a lien on the property. I feel like we need to do that with trees as well. There's a lot of dead trees you can drive around. They're huge risk, liability. The city does have the authority and the right to, actually, in our code, we have the right to tear down a dead tree on a private property, according to our city code. But definitely the right of way, I think we need to be addressing those. And I don't know if that can be something that can be budgeted or put into the budget, outsourced, kind of like what we did before. Because you want to talk about blight, we have a lot of tree blight for sure. So
I think there's a couple different levels we can pull. In my edit fund, I have space to do those kind of things. And then also we can do an ask for that money to be able to spend on that as well. But I do agree that's one of our blight issues that plague the city. So we got to figure that out. And so I'm looking forward to that council meeting on the 20th to get that tree ordinance updated, which hasn't been done since I think like 2004 or something like that. So it's been a while. So it's a due for update. So I'm looking forward to that. But yes, I agree.
all right, great. That's all the questions I had. It is 7:27. So any of the council members, what's that?
Just one, Mayor, I want to commend you. I mean, the department heads that you've put together, that's why the city's going in the right direction. And you can't afford to lose any of these guys. They're all great. I like everyone. And I really commend you on getting Paige to quit Baker Tilly, come here for hardly nothing. So great job on that one.
Any other council members want to add anything or ask any other questions? Councilman Marshall.
I'd like to revisit the discussion of raises because it seems to be synonymous with, I think, cost of living increases. And I think those are different things. So is it fair to say that there's been no cost of living increases for city employees in years? Or
no, I mean, so there's been, hold on, I think I got the, funny you asked, I think I have it. So, now unions had a different scale. Right. So the unions are different, right? So, but from a city civilian employee in 2011, they got 2.7%, 2012 and 2015, 0%, 2016, they got 5%, 0%, 2017, 18, 19, 2020, 3%, 2021, 3%, 2022, 5%, 2023, 0%, 2024, as in this year, that what they're living right now, 3%. So if you add them up over the last, over the last 15 years, that is 26.7%. Let me do it again, make sure that's right.
Well, I mean, if it's 3%, 3% is not a raise.
I get it. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I just think when we talk about, we need to be real about what is a raise as opposed to just an adjustment to keep the salary competitive with the rest of the world. That's how I'm always want to make sure we talk in those terms.
I appreciate that, Eric. You're exactly right on that, because a lot of those years, like the previous administrations, they've said, well, we're going to give you a 3% raise, but then he doubled premiums, doubled deductions there. So really, you still lost 2%. So I'm glad you said that, Eric. That's a very good point.
Any other council members? Mayor, would you like to add anything else?
Nope, I don't think so. I appreciate you all for this, and I'm looking forward to our next meeting. And the timeline that I would like to operate on for us when we start doing this in the reading is September 3rd, the first reading, September 17th will be the second reading, and then October 1st would be the third reading. That's what I would like us to collaborate to achieve that.
All right, yeah, I'm looking at that right now. So as far as a second budget committee meeting, I just want input from the rest of the council on this. So, I mean, obviously the mayor gave you options to email, contact him, contact department heads. I just want to get an idea of, does the council want to have another committee meeting? Or do you want to just contact directly and get the answers? Because we would like to get this to the first reading September 3rd. Any opinion on that, Gary?
I think, I'd like to have it.
I think I'd like to have a committee meeting, another committee meeting just to go over stuff and iron stuff out. And I don't have a problem contacting the department heads, but most of my questions were answered tonight. So, but I think we should sit down collectively as a council and go over everything and make sure that we're on board with everything. And I think David brought up good points, Mike brought up good points, Eric brought up good points. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councilman Marshall, any opinion on that?
In terms of,
Having another budget committee meeting?
I'm okay with having
Okay. Anybody,
'cause I didn't, yeah.
everybody good with having another committee meeting?
And in this second budget committee meeting, you want me and all the vendors, or is it just like a committee meeting for the council?
What was that question? I'm sorry.
Do you want me and all my department heads here, or do you want to just be a council budget committee?
I think it'd be good to have the department heads, just like Councilman Ford, I said earlier.
Okay.
Then we could say, Mr. Falstein, can you come up? And then we could all ask his department, Chief Gilbert, we could, do it like, to me, that's the easiest way of kind of knocking it out.
Yeah, and I think, if we didn't have him here, I just can see a question coming up and go, well, we got to wait to find out. So, yeah, I'll probably request them back one more time. And so just looking at the time frame, the reason I'm asking is looking at the time frame. I mean, we do have to do, I think we have to have a 10-day notice, correct, before we have a public hearing, which that public hearing, if we go off of this schedule, will be September 17th, correct, right? So I think we'll be fine. So as far as a budget, since everyone's here, a budget committee meeting, we have a council meeting next Tuesday. Don't want to do it before that. I just don't want to be constrained to an hour or whatever. So I don't know if, I don't want it to be too soon so you can't plan for it, but essentially maybe come back the 26th of August. Would that be, is everyone good with the 26th of August? That's the Monday before Labor Day weekend. Everybody good for that? And then from there, we, hopefully it'll be our last budget committee meeting. And then we can, the nice thing about that is then we can hopefully get it submitted to first reading, because we'd have to submit the budget, or we'd have to submit it to the council meeting by the if it gets passed on third reading, it'll be the 27th at 4 p.m. that would need to be submitted. So it would be. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but
Microphone.
I'll be on vacation from August 23rd to September 3rd. So if you just want to reach out to me, I can answer any questions. I just want to let you know. I'm not asking for a special meeting for me, but just so you know, I won't be here during that time.
You can just cancel your vacation.
Okay,
So we'll
tell
just,
my wife that, and good luck with that.
well, I appreciate you telling us that. We'll just be very intentional as a council that if we've got questions, we'll ask you. And then you said, when do you get back again? September 3rd. Okay. Okay, it's gonna be tough to get everybody in the same room at the same time, so I understand. And so just the council just needs to ask specific questions ahead of time, and yeah.
Those items then will be reduced down to zero, right? Outside. Just kidding.
Yeah. Do we need to FaceTime you on the screen? Are you available by phone just in case? I mean, he's like, no.
Zoom in.
Yeah, it's okay. I understand. We're not gonna, it's not a perfect schedule, but, all right. So I'll let the clerk's office know to send out notice to have the next budget committee meeting, August 26th at 6 p.m. And again, we'll try and keep that one within 2 hours, but we need to make sure we're asking all the right questions. So again, as far as the council goes, if anyone's interested, I'd be more than willing to send the link to the AIM training on budgets. It's very informative. just let me know and I'll send it to you. It's free, or we paid for it. We've already paid for it, but it's free to use. So, all right, that's it. Budget meeting's over.
Chief Gilbert, can I have a word with you, please?